In a Status Coup investigation that examined Duda, now a partner at a political technology company called Higher Ground Labs, and his former investment firm's potentially dubious connection to the One Malaysia Development Berhad, that's the full name of the fund, 1MDB, a global money laundering scandal involving everyone from Goldman Sachs to actor Leonardo DiCaprio, unresolved questions remain. And to be clear, when I write that, that's not to say Leonardo DiCaprio has any criminal liability. I was writing that in reference to the funds that were laundered. Part of those funds went into the Wolf of Wall Street. That doesn't mean Leonardo DiCaprio was aware of it or is involved with it, to make that clear. And here I just explain a little bit. 1MDB was a sovereign wealth fund created to build infrastructure and agricultural projects in Malaysia, supported by wealthy investors from Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and other countries. Goldman Sachs, whom Malaysian authorities recently filed against for $7.5 billion, was the bank responsible for setting up the bond payments for investors, but those wealthy investors were left holding the bag. The $6.5 billion ultimately raised never went to building anything. Instead, money was allegedly laundered into the personal accounts of Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak and other political and business elites. So I kind of just, reference what I just had told you before, what 1MDB was and what the scandal was. And according to the New York Times, hundreds of millions were also diverted into expensive yachts, jewelry, paintings, and ironically, production costs for DiCaprio's Wolf of Wall Street. According to Duda, who, by the way, to restate, is listed as a co-host for Kamala Harris's Fundraiser in Hollywood next week. Duda co-founded the investment firm Duda Capital in 2013 with Frank White Jr., who's a big Democratic Party donor who served on Obama's 2008 campaign as a Mid-Atlantic finance director. He also served as a fundraiser for Obama's 2012 campaign and on Hillary Clinton's finance committee for her 2016 campaign. It was also founded, Frank White Jr. founded it with Mr. Duda and rapper and Fugees founder Pras Michael. Pras Michael was recently named in court filings related to working with a former Department of Justice official in an alleged conspiracy to funnel tens of millions of dollars in connection to the 1MDB scandal. So Pras Michael, he's in deep doo-doo. Deep doo-doo. He's in trouble. But Duda founded it with this big dollar donor who was a big donor to Obama, big donor to Hillary Clinton, and the rapper who founded the Fugees, Lauryn Hill, the Fugees. So Duda himself, by the way, just to remind you, is no slouch. He was a special assistant to President Obama's White House. He was a special assistant to the White House counsel. He also worked for Obama's re-elect campaign, did a lot of fundraising for Obama's re-elect campaign, and also did fundraising for Hillary Clinton. So all of these people are kind of in that same Obama-Hillary Clinton orbit. Doesn't make them bad people. We might have disagreements politically, but doesn't necessarily mean they're bad people. I just want to be clear. So, trying to be fair. Early on, after its formation, Duda, which once again, Duda co-founded, launched a $505 million fund in the form of a general partner, and they called it Eurus Private Equity. So basically, Duda launched a side company or a side partner called Eurus Private Equity. According to the Wall Street Journal, 1MDB, the now scandal-covered Malaysian Fund, and Eurus, the general partner to Duda, entered into a master joint venture agreement to develop solar power plants in Malaysia, which netted Duda $506,000. So, in English, Duda's company that he co-founded, through a general partner, they created Eurus Private Equity, went into business with 1MDB, the Malaysian fund, which got them $506,000. Doesn't stop there, though. That same year, Duda Capital registered papers with the Foreign Agents Registration to serve as a lobbyist for 1MDB in order to, quote, encourage the U.S. government to provide non-financial support for a Malaysia solar project, according to the filing that was signed by Duda. And I linked to that filing. So that's kind of important. You can, as a company say, well, maybe my company was connected to this scandal-covered fund, but I didn't know about it or I wasn't involved with it, but he signed the documents. to become their lobbyist, which again doesn't mean he has committed a crime, but it does mean he was involved in the deal. He signed the documents. So, Mr. Duda, but the solar pod projects never came to fruition. 6 months after the deal, 1MDB bought out DuSable Capital, paying the firm $69 million, $69 million, for its 49% stake, basically buying them out. Despite the lack of construction, money flowed to those involved anyway. According to Wall Street Journal's 2016 report, investigators looking into the deal believe that $10 million allegedly embezzled from 1MDB, the Malaysian Fund, indirectly landed into the pockets of White, Duda's co-founder. White and DuSable cooperated with investigators, the report said, the Wall Street Journal report. So to be clear, all the reports that are made public that are open say $10 million went into Duda's partners, his co-founder, Frank White, the bigwig donor for Obama, Hillary Clinton, and them. So that they're saying it went into Frank White's pockets, not Duda. Doesn't mean Duda didn't get a cut. We just don't know. We don't know. The reports state the $10 million went into Frank White's pockets. He's the co-founder, and Duda signed the lobbying agreement, so I'll leave it up to you to wonder, would he have benefited or profited off Duda or White were ever or are currently under investigation. The Department of Justice answered Status Coup with its customary non-answer. Quote, the U.S. Department of Justice generally does not confirm, deny, or otherwise comment on the existence or non-existence of an investigation. Duda politely declined to comment or answer Status Quo's questions, which included whether he had ever been interviewed by the Department of Justice or any state or local bodies about DuSable's deal with 1MDB, or if he or the firm he had co-founded had ever been or currently are under investigation. In two subsequent attempts to get an answer from Duda, he again declined. Attempts to reach Frank White Jr. and DuSable Capital were unsuccessful. The company's website has no listed number, and the email address provided bounced back. And I'm not going to show you his email, but I will read the email so you have a full account of what he said. Hey, Jordan, received your note. I will politely decline to comment on your story. Apologies. I wrote back, thanks for the response. I, of course, want to be fair to you in this piece. You sure you don't want to comment as far as whether you've been interviewed by DOJ and or if you, your partner, or DuSable is under investigation? He wrote back, I think it's most responsible for me to politely decline comment. Apologies. So, you could take it two ways. You could take it how I take it. If a reporter reached out to me and said, has the Department of Justice ever interviewed you or are you under investigation? If I wasn't under investigation, I would make sure that reporter knew I wasn't under investigation. Maybe if I was interviewed, I wouldn't want that to be revealed because it could kind of be spun that I was interviewed. But you kind of know if you're under investigation in most cases, or you would have some idea if you're under investigation because you've been interviewed by folks. They've told you certain things that for you to do or not do, those kinds of things. So the fact that he was politely declining to comment strikes me as odd, particularly if you're not under investigation or if you haven't been interviewed ever. You could have also, he or his business partners could have given documents or filings or financial things to the Department of Justice without being interviewed. So several things are true, can be true. Secondly, it took him about a day and a half to get back to me. My gut is he spoke with his lawyer on how to respond or if to respond. Could also be that, frankly, he didn't do anything wrong, but he thinks, well, this guy, who is he? He's from Status Coup, so I'm not going to comment because that would give more oxygen to the story. And whatever, let him publish it. It's not going to go anywhere. That's also sometimes a calculus for public figures when the media is approaching them. If it was the New York Times, he'd have a different calculus. But little old Status Coup, he might have been told, well, who cares? Let them publish what they want. They're small. So it's there's many different scenarios that can be true. But at the end of the day, if you're not under investigation, if you haven't been interviewed by the Department of Justice, if you don't have anything to hide, why wouldn't you just say to the reporter, not that I'm aware of? I've been interviewed years ago, but never been told I'm in investigation, no charges, nothing. Who knows? Could also be that a deal was struck for financial payments back. And as part of that deal, the settlement is a non-disclosure where you can't talk about it. There's a lot of things that could be true. So in fairness, this story is not proving or even speculating that he is guilty of something. But I think the rest of the story will show some red flags. So again, Duda politely declined to comment. Oddly, or perhaps not, considering Dusable's ties to 1MDB, Duda has scrubbed his time with Dusable from the public record. On his LinkedIn page, the time period for his role at Dusable is listed under Renewable Energy Private Equity. And let me show you that page so you have more context. Oh, the establishment will say I'm doxing him. I'm doxing him. It's a public page. Relax. So, right there, January 2013 to November 2016, Renewable Energy Private Equity. So that's odd, because most people put in the name of the company they worked for. You got University of Chicago, he's a fellow. You got Obama for America, he worked at. Investment banking, Morgan Stanley. So he deliberately left off Dusable Capital off his LinkedIn page. I think that's a little odd. What do you think? Not criminal, but certainly odd. Then you have the bio for his current company, which is Higher Ground Labs. Let me show you that. Shomik has built a diverse career, blah, 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 blah. In 2013, Shomik co-founded a private equity firm focused on renewable energy and infrastructure. He oversaw the planning, financing, and developments of 2 utility-scale solar plants in Asia and in sub-Saharan Africa. He quit his job the day after Trump was elected to get back in the fight. I'm going to get to that because the timeline also is questionable. But again, no mention in his LinkedIn page, in his public bio of Dusable Capital. Well, you could say, well, you know, Dusable Capital, it's been reported, the Wall Street Journal reported about its ties to 1MDB, a couple other outlets reported on his ties to 1MDB, so he just doesn't want it out there that he was co-founded that. But, I mean, how much smoke do you need? How much smoke do you need before there's a little fire? You know, that's not me speculating, that's just common sense. Why would somebody be trying to scrub out a company he co-founded if there's nothing wrong with the company, if they didn't do anything wrong? So, beyond his aversion to publicizing his time with Dusable Capital, there are also questions surrounding the exact time period Duda worked at Dusable. According to an August 2016 Washington Free Beacon story, which, by the way, the Washington Free Beacon is like right-wing, it's flimsy. I'm not linking to them because I necessarily trust their reporting, but in this case, I'm linking to them for very specific reasons. So according to an August 2016 Washington Free Beacon story, the outlet, the Washington Free Beacon, when they reached out on Duda, the outlet received an automated response from Dusable Capital that Duda was no longer with the company. But that doesn't square with Duda's LinkedIn page, which says he was with the company until November 2016. Or more specifically, on his current company biography, which says he left the day after Donald Trump was elected president to, quote, get back in the fight. So, I mean, the Washington Free Beacon, I would hope, is not lying about getting a message from an automated machine sometime in August 2016 that Duda is no longer with the company. But somehow, on his LinkedIn page, he was there till November. On his bio page, he was there. He quit the day after President Trump was elected. So why would you fudge the timeline about when you were with the company? By the way, this period that he's either saying he was still there, I don't know why he would say he's still there if he's not, but this period was when news about the company and their links to 1MDB were publicly being reported on in places like the Wall Street Journal. So there's also oddities with the timeline of Dusable itself. According to a September 2015 filing, right here, they were terminated their filing with the SEC was terminated in September 2015. So if their filing was terminated in September 2015, how would they be sending automated messages in August 2016 saying that Duda was no longer there? If your SEC filing was terminated 11 months prior. Now, I mean, this also could mean nothing. Could be a case of a firm that changed over to a private operations rather than being SEC regulated. If you do that, you also have to operate differently. But that's possible. But it's weird. Why would an automated message get back to a media outlet rather than a person? Why now there's a website for Disable Capital, but there's no number. There's only an email address, and the email address bounced back when I emailed them. So is Disable Capital still in business? Is it out of business? When did it go out of business? Why did it go out of business? I think these are all legitimate questions. Being that both Department of Justice and Duda declined to shed light on whether he or Disable are under investigation in relation to the massive foreign money laundering scandal, Status Coup reached out to Senator Harris's campaign to ask whether they were aware that Duda, a co-host at the upcoming fundraiser and a prior donor to Harris's campaign, he donated to her 2016 Senate campaign, to see if they're aware that he worked at a firm that profited tens of millions of dollars from a deal with an alleged money laundering racket. Again, I don't have proof that he broke the law. I don't even know if he's under investigation, but I do have proof that he signed the documents that became this fund's lobbyists. I do have proof they made $69 million. And I don't have confirmation from him or anyone that he's not under investigation. Why wouldn't you just say, no, I'm not under investigation, or not that I know of? Doesn't make a lot of sense. Why would you scrub off of all your public documents that you worked for this company? A lot of smoke here, folks. Numerous requests for comments, both through email and Twitter direct message, were not returned to Kamala Harris's campaign. Because I want to be fair. I don't want to just publish this and not give them a chance to respond, but they didn't respond. That's troubling too. Like I wrote, Status Coup continues to have an open request for comment from the Harris campaign. Senator Harris made a splash upon entering the 2020 presidential field, raising $1 million in 24 hours. But since then, Senator Bernie Sanders has announced she's behind in both fundraising and most national polls, behind Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. In a growing anti-big donor political climate, Harris has pledged to shun corporate PAC donations, but that's not stopping the former California Attorney General from brushing elbows with a who's who of Hollywood and media, and cashing their checks. In February, she had a private fundraiser at the home of Universal President Jeff Shell, which included Hollywood heavyweights and political donors. One of those heavyweights was Jeffrey Katzenberg, the DreamWorks founder, and he gives a lot of money to Democrats, including Hillary Clinton in 2016. Harris's political career also has financial ties to the corporate media. Individuals working at Warner Media, CNN's longtime parent company, which was acquired by AT&T last year, are listed as Harris's top career donors at $127,975, according to Center for Responsive Politics, which is opensecrets.org. All of those donations came during her 2016 Senate campaign. CNN hosted a town hall with Harris a day after her campaign kickoff in January. The network has covered her campaign at length, going as far as recently ranking her number one in its candidate power rankings, despite former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders outpolling her, and in Sanders' case, performing better in fundraising. According to CNN forecaster Harry Enton, Harris was winning the Google search traffic race, attributing that and, quote, activist support as the reason for her top ranking. In addition to declining to answer whether he or Disable Capital is under investigation related to 1MDB, Duda declined to answer whether he will still be attending Harris's March 20th fundraiser as a co-host. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.